Hey guys, today I thought I would share with you some of the places that we camped while we were in Grand Teton and in Yellowstone, and some of the places that you must visit while you're in those two places. So part of this video, I actually was talking as I was at the campgrounds, but there was the wind and everything like that, so I'm hoping that you'll be able to hear it very good. But a lot of the clips are going to be showing you some clips of the places that we went, and I will do a speak over on those so it'll be a little bit clearer, no wind to distract you or anything like that. So just bear with me through all of it, because part of it will be me talking on the outside with a little bit of wind noise, and then part of it will be me just showing you clips and telling you a little bit about it. So we actually flew into Salt Lake City and rented an RV. It was a Class A 34-foot. We did dispersed camping the very first night, late at night. We weren't there for very long. It was just a place to kind of sleep. And then we headed toward Grand Teton. And then we stayed for 2 nights in the national park at Grand Teton. And I'll give you a little overview of those 2 campgrounds there. Then we headed north to Yellowstone and stayed in West Yellowstone for the next 4 nights. So I just want to show you the campgrounds that we did stay at, tell you a little bit about them, and then some of the points of interest that we were interested in doing. There were 2 places that we did not get to do while we were in Grand Teton because of the RV that we had. We couldn't get into the parking spots or anything like that. The roads were too narrow. We just weren't able to get into it with our Class A. So there were 2 places that I had on my list that we found out we were not going to be able to go to. And then Yellowstone, we got to do everything because we parked the RV in the campground, rented a van from West Yellowstone, and just spent the 4 days traveling all through Yellowstone, the entire figure 8 loop. So let's just go ahead and get started with this video on where to camp and what to do while you're in Grand Teton and Yellowstone. And let me just preface this by saying this is only our 2nd time with an RV. We are not seasoned campers. We do not own an RV. This was one that we had rented, and I had just done some research on some of the campgrounds to do. So if you're inexperienced like me, this is definitely a video for you. You can see where to camp and what to do and everything like that. So I hope that you are going to enjoy this video. So we flew into Salt Lake City yesterday and rented an RV, and we do have a Class A. It's, I think, 34-foot. And I was just going to show you some of the places that we'll be camping and some of the sights we will be seeing along the way to Grand Teton and Yellowstone. So the first night we did get in quite late, and it had rained, and our plan was to stop at the Palisades reservoir north dispersed camping area. So there is no camping hookups or anything like that, but it is very beautiful here. But we did get here quite late. It was like 10 p.m., pitch black. Our levels would not level though, so we did not get to put our slides out last night, so we did just stay here. But I wanted to show you how beautiful this is. So you can look behind me, you can see there's lots of other campers. So you can see here, this is where the dispersed camping area starts, and you can kind of see where that tree is, the bigger tree in the front. That's kind of where the sign is to, I think, begin where the dispersed camping is, and that's actually the line that divides Idaho and Wyoming. So we didn't actually go further in. We kind of stopped right here at the very beginning, because it was so dark when we got here, and it had been raining, and we could tell by walking just a little ways in there that there was some washed out areas, so we were afraid to go much further in there. But you can see there are several people that are camping out there on that little inlet. But this is absolutely gorgeous. You can see it's got the lake access, so a really beautiful place to go, stay a few days. You do have a 5-day camping limit here, but it's so pretty with the lake access, and it was just a nice stopover for us. Like I said, we weren't able to get it leveled, so we just slept here. It was basically just a stayover on the way from Salt Lake to go up toward Grand Teton. So after leaving the dispersed camping, we did have to make a stop and walk around and eat lunch in Jackson, Wyoming, on the way to Grand Teton. So really great place to hang out for a couple of hours, do some shopping, and catch a lunch there, and of course get your picture made in front of the famous antlers. Our first stop once entering the park was the John Moulton Homestead. These cabins are absolutely beautiful, and you can just see the views of the Teton Mountains behind there. Just such a beautiful area. And then kind of across the street is the Mormon Row area, where you can also get a great picture of the T.A. Moulton cabin as well, but just a beautiful stop with the mountains in the background.
The next stop we made heading north was the Snake River overlook. So, a really nice pull out with the mountains in the background, and then you can see a good view of the Snake River. Absolutely stunning overlook. Oxbow Bend was the next stop along the way. Absolutely beautiful. This was a great place to stop and take lots of pictures. And then the boys actually wanted to go down to the river and see how cold that it was. They actually wanted to go swimming in it. But it's just a picturesque place that's worth a stop to just take some great pictures at. This was a Jackson Dam. It was a nice little stop. Tons of people were fishing here, so it must be a really good place to fish.
So we left our first campsite and headed toward Jackson. In Jackson, we walked around and ate at the Jackson Drug Company, and it was mediocre food, but very expensive and pretty busy. But their milkshakes were phenomenal. And then just walked around the souvenir shops and everything in Jackson. Then we headed up toward Grand Teton. It did rain, and the weather has been so crazy. It has been from hot to cold to hot to cold, so I would definitely say you have to layer because you never know what it's going to be. So last night, we did come into the Grovant campground, and I love this campground. I'm kind of going to give you an overview. Behind me is what is behind our spots, and then I'm going to just kind of show you a little bit of the area, but it's really beautiful around here. So let me flip the camera and show you the actual campground here. All the spots are paved, so nice and level, great for leveling. Everybody can camp here, tents, and pull behind. So we have a 34-foot RV, and as you can see, it is right at the edge of our spot. So I'm pretty sure in this area that we're in, 34-foot was the longest that it could accommodate, but there's several loops in here, and I'm just going to kind of spin around. We were in loop C, and our space was 137, and I kind of want to show you, it's very close to the restroom. So if you are camping and you want to use the restroom that is included, then it is very close to this one, and we were in loop C. And a lot of people were coming around. There's a trail right through here. We didn't do the trail, but a lot of people were walking the trail. It was very busy. But this is an absolutely beautiful campground. When we got here, it was full. They do take reservations. It used to be a first come, first serve, but now there is reservations required. And I believe that we booked ours probably about 3 months ago, and there were about 5 spots left in the whole campground. So it's really nice, and the average cost is $54, I believe, for a spot. But we did have the America the Beautiful card, so we were able to get a discount on that. But it's absolutely beautiful, lots of places. And we're in the area that does allow generators, but they do have to be quiet between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. Really nice campground. I love this one. This is the Grovant campground, and it is actually within the National Park Service, so really nice. There were no hookups, but I do believe there were a few spots with hookups, but those are obviously the first ones that usually go. But very beautiful area, and every one of the spots does come with your own bear locker, picnic table, and a fire pit.
This is a quick little turnout where you can see a glacier up there on the mountain. String Lake is an absolutely picturesque area, and it has some really shallow water, so it's great if you have kids that want to do some swimming. But it is glacier fed, so it does get very cold. But there were several people there with kayaks and paddle boards, so really nice place to just do some fun activities. So last night was night 2 in the Grand Teton National Park, and the campground that we stayed in last night was Coulter Bay. I got my little one climbing a tree, and this one is a little bit different than Grovant, the first one we stayed at within the park, because they have like a little village outside of where you check in at that has 2 restaurants, like a cafe and a restaurant, and then they also have a marina and where you can rent some motorsports, kayaks, things like that. So I was going to just show you a little bit about where we stayed at, so let me flip the camera. So basically we were right beside the restrooms again, and then these have kind of like pull-in spots, so you're able to pull in, plenty of room to put your slides out and things. And then you can see most of them are the pull in, but then there are some where you can back into. And we were in Loop H. Right outside of Loop H, there is a dump station. So there are dump stations that are in the entrance and exit, but then there was also one right by Loop HI, kind of in the middle of HI, so that was really convenient. So if you're staying in either Loop H or I, you do have a dump station. You might not have to wait in that line at the very entrance or exit. This is what the Coulter Bay campground looks like. So here is the entrance to Loop H that we were in, and then here is the exit right here. So as you come out of the exit, you can come right along here. You have some potable water as well as a dump station here. So that's really convenient if you are staying in this area. Our first stop after entering through the south entrance of Yellowstone National Park was Moose Falls. And so right after you pass this little bridge, there's a pull out right beside it. And this is the view of the falls. It's absolutely a spectacular view and a short walk. And if you come up on the same trail as Moose Falls, just a little ways up, you'll see this beautiful bridge with the Crawfish Creek underneath. The next stop for us was the West Thumb Geyser Basin area, and this had plenty of RV parking, also lots of restrooms as well. So this had a boardwalk where you could walk on an inner loop or you could do an outer loop. The outer loop took you along the lake as well. So we actually did both, and it was not very long. Kepler Cascades is a nice little pullout, and it's not a walk, it's just a viewing area and very beautiful. Next up is what everyone comes to Yellowstone for, and that is Old Faithful. So I never even looked at the schedule of when it was supposed to erupt, but we timed it perfectly. We parked the RV, and once we got in there, we waited maybe 5 minutes and then she started going. So as you can see, very crowded, very popular area. And it was so nice to just be able to go in there and not have to wait an hour or so before it erupted. So we had some perfect timing for this one. Absolutely beautiful. The must thing to do. So this was just a view we saw every day on the side of the road as we were coming into the park from the west entrance, which is the way that we always came in because of the campground we stayed at. The first stop for this day was Barrel Spring. Very gorgeous. Good place to take some pictures. It has a really easy pull out on the side of the road. You can just walk very easily to it. And so this was the first spring that we came to that day, and it's a great place to take pictures. Next, we got into the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone area. So there was a huge parking lot with lots of restrooms. And if you wanted to see some of the upper and the lower falls, then there were viewpoints where you could do that without any walking. But my youngest son and I decided that we were going to do the lower falls brink hike. It's a 3/8 mile hike, but you do drop 600 feet in elevation. And these are the stunning views that you do get when you get to the bottom of that. We saw a great double rainbow. And you kind of see where the lower falls will cascade down into the canyon. Very beautiful. So here in the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, there are several pullouts to see waterfalls, the upper falls, the lower falls. There's several hikes that you can do as well, but there's also a lot of lookout points. So during this time that we spent in the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, we did see Lookout Point, as well as the Grand View, Inspiration Point. We saw the Upper Falls view as well. So just lots of very scenic and gorgeous places to be able to pull over and get some great pictures and just see all of the beautiful waterfalls that are in the canyon area and the views of the canyon itself. This is Artist Point. It is a really nice overlook that is also handicap accessible as well. So now we're in the Hayden Valley, and this was our first glimpse of a lot of different wildlife. So we saw a ton of bison just right there on the side of the road. There were several pull-offs you could go to if you wanted to get some up-close pictures. But guys, we had a bison walking straight toward us. So, we got a very good video of the bison coming at us and walking right past our car, like he owned the place, which he kind of does. So this is the Hayden Valley area. It has some really nice overlook stops. This one is of the Yellowstone River. Another beautiful waterfall with a pullout on the side of the road is Gibbons Falls. On the way to Mammoth Springs, before you get into the town of Mammoth Springs or get to the terraces, there's a little cutoff to the side where you can do this drive. And this is the area that you see. There's some boardwalks that go throughout there. So you can see this beautiful area, but no RVs are allowed in this area. Mammoth Hot Springs was a really interesting place, and that was on my list of things to must do. But boy, did I get a surprise when we saw some elk just hanging out in the hot springs. So that was really nice. And this has lots of parking, restrooms, and I think they might even have a restaurant that is in this town as well. I know that Lamar Valley is a little bit of a drive on the north part of the park, but it's well worth it if you want to see the wildlife. If you're not interested in the wildlife, then you can skip this area altogether. But if you want to see some bison, again, walking in the streets, or if you want to see any kind of other wildlife, then this is definitely an area to go. You will see an abundant amount of bison for sure. Then we also saw some pronghorn, as you can see on the side of the road. And then as we went up a little bit further, there were some that were in the fields, and you were able to get kind of close to those because they're not as aggressive as the bison. But this was definitely an area that we saw bears, also the pronghorn, bison. We saw some elk up here in this area as well. So it's a really nice place if you're wanting to look for the wildlife. But if you're interested in the hot springs and the geysers and things like that, then you can probably skip this area because that is not what you're going to see in this northern part. You're going to see all this nice wildlife. So now we are coming upon the Norris Geyser Basin area. We actually had tried to come here on two different occasions the first 2 days that we were here, and it was so crowded mainly during the middle of the day. So we decided after we went north to Lamar Valley on the way back down, we would try to see if it was crowded when we came back. And we got here around maybe 6:30 or 7 o'clock, and the parking lot was almost empty. As you can see, there's not a lot of people here. So if you actually want to come here to the Norris Geyser Basin and not have a huge crowd, then try to come after 6 p.m. So we were heading south toward the Grand Prismatic when we saw this geyser on the side of the road, and it looked like it was erupting. So there was a little pull out. So we decided to stop at this pull out and watch it as it was erupting, because this is not one that I guess has a schedule like Old Faithful. And then as we went on toward Grand Prismatic, we saw that there was a pull out on the right side of the road where you could have a viewing area, had a really nice boardwalk. And then we got an up close of this same geyser that we were seeing from the road erupting right in front of us. It was so nice. There were several of them erupting at the same time. So lots of different geysers in this area. It's a really nice viewing area that does have restrooms if you're along the way and looking for one. This is a place that you can park, look at these geysers. Grand Prismatic is probably the second most visited thing in Yellowstone besides Old Faithful. It's absolutely a beautiful spring. So we just did the boardwalk that went around the bottom part, but there's also a hike that you can do that will take you to a viewing point that's kind of at the top of that hillside, and you can look down on it, and I'm assuming that it is an absolutely beautiful view. But with the kids, I chose not to do that hike for that day, but I believe that there was a lot of people up there because you could see them from the bottom, and I believe that that would be an absolutely beautiful view as well. But it was just as pretty down on the boardwalk looking at this beautiful colors and all the rainbow colors coming out of it. So this was a neat area that we went to. It is right outside the west entrance to Yellowstone. It's actually in the town of West Yellowstone, and it's the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center. So we didn't actually see any wolves while we were there. The people that were working there said they usually do hide during the day in the shade. But these two bears that you're seeing right now are actually sisters, and it was really fun to just sit there and watch them playing. They do alternate the bears that do come out for feeding, and we got the privilege of getting to see these two and how they interacted together. But then they also have some sea otters. You can watch them swimming around. I think they rotate them out about every 15 minutes. But this is a neat little place to go. We spent about an hour here, and my 7 and 9-year-old boys absolutely loved it here.
So for the last 4 nights, we have been staying at the Yellowstone Grizzly RV Park, and it is really a nice little park area. Let me flip the camera and show you some of the areas.
So we are in spot number 118, which, as you can see, we have plenty of room. It also has a picnic table, full hookups. There's a pet walk behind it, and then you can see how nice this is. It's almost at the corner, so it's got a good yard beside it, and the dumpsters are that way. Just a really nice park. It also has a general store and a playground area, and it's really convenient to the entrance to the west entrance to Yellowstone. As we're pulling out to leave, I thought I would just kind of show you a little bit more of the area as we were going out. So there's a lot of pull-through areas, so you can bring the biggest of RVs, the biggest Class A's, and then they do also have some areas that are not full hookup. We were in the part that was. They also have some cabins, so if you want to just kind of stay in this area but you don't have your own camper, then you can rent the cabins out as well. There's a general store if you have some little things that you need, but this is very convenient to West Yellowstone. You are within walking distance to some of the shops, the ice cream shops, and all of the restaurants that are in West Yellowstone. So we walked into town every single night. It's a nice little area, and then you're coming up on the little playground. So I thought I would just go ahead and show you a few clips from the town of West Yellowstone. So this is very close to the west entrance into Yellowstone. We were actually staying at the Yellowstone Grizzly RV Park, and so this is within walking distance to that RV park. But if you're trying to find a place to stay and you want to stay outside and you want to stay in West Yellowstone, they also have some hotels as well and some little cabins along the way. But this has a lot of different souvenir shops that are reasonably priced, also some ice cream shops, restaurants. So if you're looking for a good place to eat, there are several different restaurants you can choose from in this quaint little town. It's so cute, and we enjoyed walking here every evening after we would finish at Yellowstone. This also has an IMAX theater as well as the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center, which we also checked out, and I told you about that a little bit earlier. But just a really cute town, and I just kind of wanted to show you a little bit of clips from here.
So that was our highlights from our trip to Grand Teton and Yellowstone. I hope that you found this video helpful if you're planning a trip. Also, if you're looking for some great campgrounds, I enjoyed every single one of them that we went to. Grovant was probably my favorite one within Grand Teton, even though Coulter Bay was really nice with all the amenities that it had. I just like the peacefulness and just the spaciousness of Grovant, so I thought that one was really nice. They're on separate ends of the park, so that was really nice that we were able to do the bottom part first and then go on toward the northern entrance and be able to camp there before we headed on toward Yellowstone. I really enjoyed staying at the Yellowstone Grizzly RV Park because it was really nice. The spot that we had was almost in the corner, so it didn't feel like you were really crowded, even though it was very busy. Every spot was taken most of the time that we were there. I just thought it was really nice and very convenient to the town itself. You could walk within distance if you wanted to go to any of the shops or restaurants that they had there. I thought it was very convenient to anything there, and it's also very convenient to the West Yellowstone entrance as well. I hope you found this video helpful or enjoyed seeing the views of Yellowstone. If you've never been there, if it's on your bucket list, it is a really beautiful area. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, I would love to have you consider hitting that subscribe button. I do weekly videos on fashion, beauty, and lifestyle, but I also have a lot of travel videos as well. I like to do vlogs and what I wear while I'm on the trips. So please consider hitting that subscribe button. I hope to see you in my next video, and until then, I hope you have a wonderful day.